A covert narcissist is a grandiose victim. Grandiose. You see, what makes them a grandiose victim is they self-victimize based on arbitrary things. Like they watch you and they will literally feel victimized, slighted, insulted. They'll get a narcissistic injury just based on the tone of your voice, the facial expression you make. It is automatic that every relationship a covert narcissist has ends in betrayal because they are grandiose victims. They will feel rage towards anybody that loves them. The other thing that they're doing is they're replacing self-harm with reactive abuse. These are people that hate themselves. These are people that have so much shame that the only thing they're trying to do is get a catharsis for their own shame. That is why they are ideal victims, meaning that covert narcissists' comfort zone is being victimized. You see, they try to induce normal people to be villains in their victim story. They're intentional provocateurs. They cause reactive abuse because reactive abuse enables them to blame shift their own tendency to devalue themselves, you see. And so the internal shame from being the way they are, the self-hatred, is something that they want to pin on you. You see, they don't want to be responsible for the fact that they're punishing themselves, that they are living with the echoes of a child that was victimized, and they refuse to let go of their entitlement to be a victim because that is all they have as an identity. The identity of a covert narcissist is a victim. Everything is a victim story. Every relationship they got victimized. Everybody outside of them is a narcissist. Everybody's out to get them. They are paranoid, sadistic, and they want a cathartic release that takes form in being abused. Like that is why they try to get you to fight them. You catch them cheating, they get in your face. What are you going to do about it? Like they want to be punished. As sick as it sounds, they prefer to make you the bad guy rather than them be the bad guy. You see, they're torturing themselves. And so that's all they're doing. And so they're just trying to make someone else responsible for punishing them. Some of them are masochistic. Many of you might have yelled at a narcissist and they felt like they needed it. Covert narcissists are people that are responsive to being shamed. Shame creates boundaries, and so they test you all the time. So when they're shit testing you in relationships by triangulating you, they perceive a lack of punishment, a lack of anger, a lack of jealousy as a green light, as weakness. And so when they start triangulating, they're disappointed that you didn't react, that you did not take the bait, that you didn't correct them because they can't correct themselves. They want to try to get you to control them. They want to try to get you to punish them. That if you don't put those boundaries on them, then you're like a failed parental figure. And so they will simply destroy you in an effort to get you to control them, even though they're trying to control you. It's like a rebellious teenager that is fighting against somebody that they perceive like a parental figure because they're very immature and undeveloped. And so if you get one of these really highly stunted people, their ability to navigate reality is completely gone. Like they are insane. Like they are uncoachable. They cannot function well in society. They become very antisocial. But you see, reactive abuse is simply the externalization of the source of self-punishment. And their constant fear puts them into a state of grandiose victimhood because they're paranoid, because they are the center of their own little universe and their false self is godlike. That they just control narratives to protect themselves. And so they get to choose who they are, and that's it. And so, they just make up everything. Like when you're really talking about the lowest level covert narcissist, you're talking about somebody that just fabricates, that just fibs and lies all day long, that doesn't love anybody, that will cheat, that will lie, that will steal, that is almost an antisocial person because they live as a failure. They live unable to thrive without being totally dependent on other people. They're entitled to all your resources. They're always going to feel shorted. They're always going to feel used because they use everybody, and they're very small-minded, and so they perceive everything as transactional. And no, they don't love you. Like if they're going to lie, cheat, smear you for months, like their smear campaigns have been working against you the whole time. They are sabotage experts. If they get invested, they get involved in anything with you, they're going to sabotage it. They're lazy. They don't give a shit about you, your future. They never do. And they never take any meaningful action to benefit any other person, and not even themselves. Like they are their own worst enemy. They sabotage anything good, always. Without exception, a covert narcissist cannot be brought on any journey. If you try to bring them, if you try to teach them, if you try to help them, helping a covert narcissist violates their victimhood. Like they can't play the victim around a good person. You cause a narcissistic injury by consistently not aligning with their narratives. See, there is no way out. You see, they're always the victim, and so that just means that if you contribute to them, they punish you for that. If you don't contribute, they punish you for that. They're entitled, but they also hate, resent, and resist everything you do, like a competition. And so you try to love them, they diminish and dehumanize that. And if you pull back to give them the space they want, then they feel abandoned and start cheating on you. And so there's absolutely no way to win with the covert narcissist. You see, they're so attached to the righteousness of their narratives, and so they start to devalue you. And you see, the problem is that if you stand up to them, they're so cowardly they run away, that they cannot handle the truth, and so they evade, because that'll cause their whole world to rupture. Their whole false reality is threatened the moment you start being direct with them. And so they're either going to try to bully you and bulldoze you and then deflect in circular, nonsensical, defensive reasoning that has no logic to it, no access to memories, no concern about your experience in the relationship. They want to be able to punish you and then reset themselves emotionally and then come back and cuddle. And they don't understand the implications of the chronic effects that their behavior has on you, or they just don't care. And so you see, this is the world they live in. They live trapped as a terrified child, hiding behind a veneer of perfection in order to avoid detection. The one thing that they're most afraid of is their own emotional states, because that got punished the most. And so they had to act perfect. They had to lie. They had to co-manipulate manipulative parents. And so they had to have a wink-wink agreement. You see, that's why narcissists like this can know that you know the truth, but the only thing that matters is narratives, because that's the only thing that mattered to the parent. The parent will lie and the child will go along with the lie, and they both will know that they're both lying, but as long as the parent approves of the behavior of the child's safe. And so they learn to lie to protect themselves, because if they didn't go along with the lies, then they would be hurt. And so lying is an existential necessity to protect them. But you see, this is all a mass delusion, because they are living through the lens of a very young child that was totally stunted. Because you see, when the child learned that lying and acting perfect in accordance to a malignant narcissistic parent was the only mechanisms of survival, you see, they never got rewarded for good grades. Anything that they did that established as any individual personality their own was punished. And so they got punished to the point of totally being stunted. They were worse than a scapegoat. So the covert narcissist that is stunted was abused so severely that they never got a chance to individuate, that anything that made them special was punished immediately, to the point of totally being trapped in a cocoon of shame. The shame that they feel was there ever since they were a child. It's not the result of the things they do, but because they already experience shame, they have no boundaries, because they're always just trying to escape this feeling of shame. And they will do the most shameful and depraved things to try to feel better about themselves, which just continues a vicious circle. And so their entitlement to hold on to resentment in the past is the linchpin to this entire structure, which they could escape, but they just don't have an experiential basis for why they would want to, given the external reality that they see from their vantage point is one of fear. And so they see a scary world that we would call hell. And this is the demon of the covert narcissist.